Hi, in this one, we're going to be actually getting our hands dirty with some stuff that we can do with integers and floats. We've got some tasks lined up for this lesson, and I hope you're ready with PyCharm and a new project opened up. If you're not already, just open up PyCharm and create a new project, call it integers and floats or ints and floats, just like I have. So I've called it int and float, as you see on the top left of the screen, so you can do the same. Now, you can always find all of these exercises and these projects that you are seeing on your screen in the course resources. So don't worry, you don't really need to type all of this out. You can just download the course resources and start coding from right there. Now, let's get to task 1. Task 1 says that we need to create integers a equals 10, b equals 20, c equals 10, and d equals 20. But the difference between a and c is that c is a float, a is an integer, b is an integer, and d is a float, simply because they have decimal points. And task 1 also asks us to print the type of each of these variables, so the data type of each of these variables. So let's just do that. That must be pretty straightforward, and you can do this with me. So first we'll simply create a variable a equals 10, b equals 20, c equals 10.0, and d equals 20.0. So once this is done, let's just print type of a, then type of b, then we print out the type of C, and finally print the type of D, and click on run. Once you run these, you know that A and B belong to the integer data type, and C and D belong to the float data type, just as we determined a few seconds ago, right? With this done, let's go to task 2. Now, task 2 asks us to create some more variables. The first one is addition. Let's take them one by one. So the first one is addition, and addition needs to store, the variable addition needs to store the sum of A, B, C, and D. And then let's print it. So first I'm going to create a variable addition equals the sum, right? So what do we use for the sum? We use the addition operator, which is the plus symbol. So that's going to be A plus B plus C plus D. And once we do that, we can print out in double quotes addition, and then we put a colon here, comma, addition. So what this means is you simply want to print out the string addition, and just adjacent to that you want to print out the value of the variable that is addition, in which we've stored the sum of all of the variables that we just created. So let me click on run, and it says addition is 60, which is correct, right? Because 10 plus 20 is 30, and 10.0 plus 20.0 is 30. So 30 plus 30 is 60. And one thing that I want you to notice is that when we add integers to floats, we always also write or consider the point O here in the float, and therefore your final answer comes down as a float. So if I also print out the type of the addition variable right here and click on run, that tells me that the addition variable belongs to the class float. So I'm just going to remove that line so that we do not complicate it as much. Now let's go to the next one, which is subtraction a underscore b, and this stores the result of b subtracted from a. Alright, so let's just create the variable first. So I'm just going to copy the name from here and paste it. So subtraction underscore a underscore b equals b subtracted from a. So we write a minus b, and then we simply print out subtraction and subtraction right here, subtraction underscore a underscore b right here. So when I click on run, I should get minus 10, and that is exactly what I get, because 20 minus 10 minus 20 will always give you a negative value, which is minus 10 or negative 10. So that's pretty simple, and Python helps you do that super fast. Now the next one is subtraction CD, in which you're expected to store the result of D subtracted from C. So in this case we write that, and then we write C minus D, and we do a similar thing. So I'm just going to copy this line, paste it right here, and we write subtraction CD, and when we run that we get minus 10.0 because you're subtracting two float variables, right? But now there's a very quick question, right? What happens if we subtract 10.0, sorry, a 20.0 from an integer 10, that is just 10 and not a 10.0? So if I just print out 20.0, sorry, 10 minus 20.0. So in this case, what happens is I have an integer that is 10 and a float that is 20.0. And when I click on run, that gives me the answer minus 10.0. So we also need to know that whenever you subtract a float from an integer or an integer from a float, you'll always get a float as an answer. So I'm just going to remove that to clear the clutter and move on to the next one, which is multiplication. So let's create a variable multiplication, and that says store the result of A multiplied by B. So in this case, our A is 10. We multiply that by B, which is 20. Both are integers. And when we run that, what do we get? Oh, we get nothing because we forgot to print it. So we'll print out multiplication and a comma, and then we write multiplication. Oops. Yep. And we run it, and that says multiplication equals 200 because 10 times 20 is 200. That's pretty simple. Finally, let's go to division, which is the fifth variable that we need to create here, and it stores the result of D divided by C in this, right? So that's going to be D divided by C. And when we print out division, comma, division, and run that, that gives us 2.0. So there it is. We've used all the basic operators, well, almost, and we've pretty much created a very small, very basic, unusable calculator. But now we know that as programmers, we can perform any kind of calculation in Python using all of these operators. Now let's move on to task 3. So task 3 demands us to create a variable e, which is equal to 9. So let's do that. E equals 9. Then you want to print the value of a divided by 9. So our a is 10, right? So we print out a divided by 9 and we run it. So that's 1.111112, right? So that's a pretty big decimal value. I mean, value-wise, it's pretty small, but yeah, we've got a lot of digits after the decimal right here. And then, which basically makes it a float value because it has a decimal, right? Now, it says that the task says that we want to print the value of a floor divided or integer divided by 9. So if I print a by 9 with a floor division operator and run it, it just gives me the 1. So we ignore the remainder and we just get the integer 1, and that's why we call this integer division, right? So that's the difference between your normal division in Python and the integer division or the floor division in Python. Finally, let's move on to task 4. Task 4 says that how would you tell if a given integer is an even number? All right, take a variable a1, which is equal to 3, and a variable b1, which is equal to 4, and try to determine the same. So let's create a variable a1 equals 3 and b1 equals 4. Now, by the looks of it, we already know that a1 is not an even number, it's an odd number, and b1 is an even number. But how do we tell that a1 is an even number and b1 is a1 is an odd number and b1 is an even number in mathematical terms? To do that, what we do is we just check for the divisibility by 2 in this case. So what we'll do is we'll simply print if a1 mod 3, which means that if a1 is divided by, sorry, if a1 mod 2, so if a1 is divided by 2, if we get a remainder of 0, then it's an even number, otherwise it's an odd number, right? So let's print a1 mod 2, and that gives us 1, which means that it is an odd number, because here in this case, if we write 3 divided by 2 or 3 mod 2 equals, and we put a comma here, we run it again, it says that 3 divided by 2 or 3 mod 2 equals 1, which means it is an odd number because it is not divisible by 2. At the same time, if we print, let's say 4 divided by 2 or 4 mod 2 equals, and we write b1 mod 2 and we run it, and that gives us a 0. So we know that 4 is divisible by 2, and therefore it gives us a 0, and therefore it is an even number. More on this whole even and odd situation in one of our small projects in the course, so just hang on for that. I hope you understood all the tasks that we did in this lesson and you followed along properly. If you've got any questions, you can always comment down below and I'll try to get back to you ASAP with all the answers that are required. Until then, just create some tasks for yourself, fool around with Python, fool around with your newly gained knowledge on strings and integers, try to mix them up in a certain way. In the coming lessons, we are actually going to be mixing up strings and integers, so hang tight for that and actually move on to the next one. And until then, just have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.